You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. Here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. And joining us to begin taking your questions and answering them on anything but election security is Dr. Abdul Aziz Bamba, Senior Lecturer of the University of Ghana Law School. Thank you very much for joining us, Doc.
My pleasure.
Right. So I'm going to open the phone lines, but before that, you heard us on the discussion of such a huge number of special voters, as in the security, who have potentially lost their votes. Can't there be anything to be done around this law now for them?
Unfortunately, Samson, the law is very, very clear that once your name is transferred onto the special voters list, you cannot vote on election day. It's so unfortunate that we have such a large number of our security officers who couldn't vote for special voting. But the law is so clear in its terms that nothing at all can be done about it. The only condition under which they will be able to vote is, and they should pray, if despite you thinking that your name is on the special voters list, and you go to a polling station and your name still happens to be there, that suggests that it has not been transferred to the special voters list, then in that case you could vote. But once the name has been transferred onto that special voters list, you have lost forever your opportunity to vote.
Okay. Well, so you take Dr. Kweku's advice, the Electoral Commission's advice, check first. Check on the special voters list, check on the main voters list. You can check with your phone. Once you find that you're still on the main voters list, good to go. All right, so you can now call us. Let's have your questions. Let's have your issues. You have 30 seconds within which to make a pitch and give us reasons why you are making that pitch for that candidate. And you're also telling us if you have any issues. The phone lines are activated right now. Those of you who started calling even before time, you can begin to call us now. If you look on your screen, you will see the phone numbers, and I'll announce them to 03022 11691, 03022 11691, or 03022 11692. You can call now and let's hear you. On election day, Dr. Kweku, we were talking about a question that we already know, and I said I'll ask about the no mask, no vote. Is there actually no mask, no vote policy? Is there something like that?
Yes, please.
No mask, no vote.
Yes, please.
Okay. Explain.
You will help me. I think there's an executive instrument on the wearing of the mask.
Yes, there is.
Can you give it to me?
There's an executive instrument that says that you should wear a face mask, face shield, or any face covering once you leave your home and you get into the public space.
Good.
If you don't, you're contravening the law and you could suffer a penalty of 12,000 to 60,000. You could suffer 3 years to 10 years in jail.
So it means that the person who goes out without a mask could be arrested before you get to the police station. Mm-hmm. Then again, we all know that COVID is real and it is there. Mm-hmm. So we don't want anybody to leave the house without a mask because you can contract the disease before you even get to the police station. I always want to say we should not create the impression that it is so that the police station that you can get the COVID. So when you are coming to the center, you could contract the COVID in the vehicle, in your interaction and the rest. So what we are saying is that don't come and infest us or we infesting you. So protect yourself in line with what the law says. Let us all be law-abiding. Putting the law aside, let's take care of our health.
Okay. And so hold on. Let's go to Swansea from Abetifi. Good morning, Swansea. Yes, go ahead.
Samson.
Swansea, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, good morning to your listeners and viewers, as well as the panel in the studio. I'll try and make my submissions very short.
You have 30 seconds. I'll cut you out if you don't.
The first one has to do with security. Now, we are made to understand that when we go to the polling stations, there will be some tax on certain security personnel, in the polling stations. I want to know, how do we recognize this approved or expected security personnel? So, for instance, if I go to the polling station and it's this is someone that has been assigned by the state to be at the polling station. If it's a policeman, how do I get to know? And then also, if there will be media personnel at the polling stations, how do we get to recognize them? And when exactly? Because perhaps when I get there to go and vote, is it when we are doing the counting that we are to see them, or during the voting process?
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Swansea. Your point is noted. Let's go to Justine. Justine from Dome. Hello, Justine.
Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, my question is on the face mask.
All right.
You know, there are people that cannot afford. Okay? And then if the Electoral Commission don't provide face masks, I think it will serve as an opportunity for some of the parties to provide it for some of the voters that are coming to vote, and it will be an enticement for them to vote for them. I don't know whether you thought about that.
All right. Thank you, Justine from Dome. EC should provide face mask, or feeling that the parties will do so and will use that to entice voters. Yes. Who do I have next? The line is 303-221-1691 or 1692. You call, and within 30 seconds, it's your decision. Hello, Victor. You're calling from Dansuman. Hello, Victor. Victor, you're on the line.
Yes, something.
Yes, go ahead.
A quick one with regard to the wearing of the mask. I wanted to know, because I've seen a number of videos with the I've seen a number of videos with our politicians out there without wearing masks. So I wanted to know if I can sue them, take them to court, and then make them also face the consequences of the law, because there's an executive instrument, and I feel it shouldn't just apply to the common citizens, but everybody.
All right, thank you, Victor. Then we have Farouk. Farouk, you're calling from Tema. Let's hear you.
Yeah, good morning, something. Well, with the face mask, because yesterday, Mr. Opusampo was on your sister station, Asempa FM, virtually blaming the EC for insisting that people come, they should wear their face mask. So I want to ask Dr. Serbo, that will it be okay for a political actor to stand close to or nearby the polling center and share face mask for the people, anyone that comes in? And my last question is with the security. Tema East, we have issues with security there. I know that place has been flagged as the security people that they will be there. But I actually want to plead with the security officials to make sure they have enough numbers there, especially. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. I'll take one last call. We take the answers, and then we return to take another batch of calls. Reverend Father Anyonam, you're calling from Adidome. Hello, Reverend
Yes.
Father, let's hear you.
Okay, good morning. Please, according to the special voters, the exercise that happened, we saw videos of ill examples of officers and videoing themselves or taking photographs of voting for a particular party. Should we, as presiding officers and polling agents, see these actions taken again in the ballot, how do you call it, voting areas? What do we do? How do we bring these people to book?
Okay, you are a presiding officer?
Yes, I'm a presiding officer, for instance.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Reverend Father Enyonam, calling from Adidome. All right, so please hold on, everyone trying to call at this point. You can send your questions also through our normal platforms, and then we will answer them. So, first question, how do I identify that this is an approved security officer? That should go to Sheila, but do you want to say something about that, Dr. Kweku?
The secretary has said that their people will be in uniform,
yes,
with their name tags, and they'll carry armbands.
Armbands, yeah. Okay.
So let's pray that people will go by them.
Right. Dr. Bamba, do you want to say something about that? How do I confirm that this is the approved tag?
As the security agencies have indicated, now, usually, I mean, in policing, the citizen should be able to identify any particular security or police officer. This is important so that in case I have a complaint to make against that security officer, I'll be able to match his face to a name and then to his security number. So I think it's important that this assurance that has been given is absolutely important, and we are hoping that all security officers who will be on duty on polling day will have their names and their numbers properly indicated on their uniforms.
Great. Of course, the IGP or the police have also outdoored the specific uniforms that they'll be using. In due course, we should be able to show it so that you can also see if you haven't seen that. But Sheila will deal with this extensively. Rhoda, do you have anything to say about this to help the voters? You have how many? You have 4,000 men and women on the ground? Sorry?
Yes, we have 4,000 polling station observers and about 300 roaming observers.
Right. In your practice, because you do this so often, how do you help be sure that this is actually a security officer?
Yeah, so essentially, as the IGP indicated, these people are going to be in uniform. And so that is, for us, it's a major issue that our observers track. The security agency, that security person who is at the polling station, is the person a uniform security person? And then if uniform, what category of personnel? Is it from the fire service? Is it from immigration or the police service? You were talking about the uniforms that the police have outdoored to the public. We haven't had similar releases from the other security agencies. It will be good for them to have done something like a joint release so that we know across the security agencies which uniforms people are going to be in. But I think it will be also important, since Dr. Srebo is in the studio, at what point in time will presiding officers also get to know who the security person who has been dispatched to that particular polling station is? Is it in the morning of the polls? Because for the voter, it will be good if you go to the polling station already, your presiding officer has identified this person and you have some level of trust because the presiding officer is the one who is in charge of the polling station on that day. And if the person is going to grant that permission, then there's that presumption that indeed the person is the one who is authorized to be at the polling station.
Excellent. Yes. When do your officers get to know this is the police officer or security officer?
What I know is that some of the security persons will even escort our officers and the materials to the polling station at the dawn of the election.
Okay.
And some too will be there in the morning by 6:30 to introduce themselves with our officers.
Right.
And they will take it.
So the assurance is that as a voter, when you go there, you know that the polling presiding officer and the agents, everybody are sure that this is the security officer in charge. Okay. Now the second question, yes, we were just talking about that. No mask, no vote. Justine says you should supply some of the masks, else the parties will take advantage and use that to induce votes.
It's back to what I said.
Okay.
That if you are saying that we should supply them, then we are encouraging them to leave the house without a mask, be in the vehicle without a mask, then the way you are telling Ghanaians that it's only the police station that one can contract the mask. But if you look at the law, you don't have to live within the house. So if you go by the law. And again, I want to put on record that if you go there with political party branded mask, we'll also sack you. Because on the day of voting, you are not supposed to be advertising any candidate's paraphernalia. So if you go there in the party branded mask, you also have to go and change it.
Okay. Am I hearing this for the first time on this show? I think you may not have given publicity sufficiently on this for the party people.
Oh, but everybody knows that we don't campaign on the day of election.
On the day of election?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So, but if you're in a mask, you are campaigning.
I'll ask Dr. Bamba so that we read the law, whether it says you don't campaign on the day of election. Okay. But, so, Doc, that's what he's saying. The policy is a policy, and he traces it to an EI, that no mask, no vote. And they will not also supply. And the political parties don't bring party branded.
I think I agree with Doug. You all recall that Parliament passed the Restriction on Impositions Act, granting the President the power by EI to come out with certain limitations or restrictions for us to be able to fight this pandemic. And there's an EI by the President which indicates that we all must wear masks, especially when we are getting into the public space and all. So there is a duty for us to be in masks even before we get to the polling station. The duty to wear a mask doesn't only arise at the polling station. So the issue about the EC providing it, I think, doesn't even arise at all, because at the time that you are leaving your house to the polling station, you must have a mask on.
They say they agreed during the registration in Parliament, and funds were made available.
That was for registration.
That was for registration.
If the EC had the budget for it approved by Parliament, that would have been a different thing altogether. But as Doc is saying, they only had it for the registration purposes and not for the day of polling.
Okay. So no mask, no vote.
No mask, no vote. We need to remember that the fact that Monday is election day doesn't mean that the general laws in the country have been suspended. So if there's a general law that you have to wear a mask, you have to comply with that, in addition to complying with the rules on voting.
Okay. The Supreme Court says that the exercise of the right to vote is indispensable in the enhancement of the democratic process and cannot be denied in the absence of a constitutional provision to that effect. I'm quoting from Abu Ramadan in the
Constitutional provision.
Supreme Court. This is Supreme Court.
Yeah. So like all other rights, there could be limitations, and one of the limitations on the exercise of rights have to do with interests of public welfare and all. And here we seriously have issues, a public health issue. So even though we insist on your right to vote, at the same time, you must also respect the right of others not to be infected with this coronavirus. And the way you do it is by wearing a mask so that you can protect yourself and protect others that you could come into contact with. Because remember that on voting...
They say you can be denied only with a constitutional provision that says you are denied.
There's a constitutional provision in Chapter 5 on the human rights provisions that says that the only time that we could limit your right is issues of morality, issues of national security, issues of public health. So I think this is a situation where one of the exceptions would definitely apply. Okay. If we say that we are not going to allow you to vote because you are not wearing...
Right. The next one, he says that you don't...
I wanted to say something. That is the highest right to me. It's the right, yes,
right
it's the right to live.
Absolutely, yeah.
And even that, the law can take it from you.
Okay. Yes, then there is the... He says you can't bring a party branded because you are not allowed to campaign on election day.
It appears that it's more of a practice over the years, but the law doesn't really say that you cannot campaign on election day. What the law says, and I'm going to read, what the law says is that you cannot do campaigning 500 meters from a polling station. So what that basically means is that if the polling station is here, nothing prevents me 1,000 meters away engaging in some political activity. And the purpose is not to interfere with polling activities on polling day. But I think once the practice has been that we don't do any political campaign or election, but we should stick to that. I think it's a good thing so that we don't have any issues of who is actually even going to enforce that. Because remember, on election day, all our security officers are going to, most of them will be deployed for election activities. So as much as possible, if you could have fewer areas for law enforcement, the better for us, the better for our security agencies. So if that is a practice, let's stick to it.
So the law in section 37 says that you cannot campaign only within 500 meters from the polling
that is correct.
Area, but not that campaigning is banned on the day of elections. Okay.
I think that it's international convention.
Okay.
There are 24 hours to election. You don't campaign.
International convention.
Everywhere in the world, yes.
All right.
It's international convention.
Okay. Then, yes, Rhoda, what do you say about that? No mask, no vote. EC says it will not even take the duty to supply anything. And the parties too, you cannot bring a party-branded masks.
Yes, I mean, the issue of the mask is important. We are talking about it. There are two things. There are people who may not be able to afford it, and there are people, it's just an issue of attitude. They can afford it, but they just may not want to wear it.
Okay.
Now, the issue that has been raised is, I think we have to look at the object of the law and the fact that we are all looking at public health. It's not that the law just requires you to do that, but there's an objective for that, which is that we all want to be alive after the elections. And so we all need to wear the mask. The issue is that, like you quoted earlier from the law, it's not just limiting you to a face mask, but it can be a face covering. So what are the alternative means that you can use to cover your nose, to cover your mouth, so that as you go to the polling stations, you're not putting your own life in danger and you're not putting the lives of others in danger. So it's important that as much as possible, to the best of our abilities, we all abide by the law. The other issue about the campaigning, I was trying to get the exact reading of the law. I think the essence is about influence, communicating something that will influence people's votes, the potential to do that. Right. I think I will look at it again and do that. So if you are wearing a face mask,
here is the law, Rhoda. Here is the law, Representation of the People law. It says in 37, certain activities prohibited on polling day. During the hours when a poll is open on polling day, a person shall not, within 500 meters of a polling station, seek to influence in whatever manner a person to vote for a candidate or to abstain for which candidate a voter intends to vote or has voted. So that's the law.
Precisely the point I was trying to make, that the essence is about influence. So if you are doing something, engaging in some activity that has the potential to influence people's voting choices, then of course that is not acceptable within the framework of the law. So I think it's quite clear.
You have been campaigning that the EC should take this responsibility on itself. If it does not do, as it says it doesn't intend to do so, the parties too, as we were trying to refer, the law says 500 meters. So the expectation was that the parties can stand away 500 meters before they distribute a mask, not party branded. But even that, Dr. Sribo says they are using the international convention that says on election day, don't campaign. So coming there to distribute can also mean you are campaigning. What then should happen to that person you say simply cannot afford? And we know the parties. During the campaigns they are doing, and today they are doing them all over the place. Tomorrow they will continue. They don't bother that people don't wear masks.
No, definitely. I would advise that every voter, you should look look at yourself. What can you afford? You cannot afford, say, a 1 cedi mask. That is possible. But can you get a handkerchief? Can you get a piece of your cloth? A headgear, something that you can use to just cover your face? I think it's possible for many of us to get that provision and then make sure that we are abiding by the law.
Great. Are your officers fully briefed to understand that the law does not require only a mask or face shield, but a face covering which would include a handkerchief or a cloth, for as long as my nose and my mouth are covered?
Everybody is aware.
So they won't turn people away?
Even when we did a special voting, I saw a lot of them with their handkerchiefs covering their noses and mouths.
All right.
Some use their headgear to cover.
All right.
So that one is normal.
So the law's requirement is that your nose and mouth must be fully covered. That's the law. Now, Victor says, okay, what must happen to politicians who, invite the crowds without the mask? The EC is doing its bit to enforce the law. How about the politicians? What should happen?
Well, they may also be in breach of the law. This could be a form of aiding and abetting. Because remember that not wearing a mask is actually a crime.
Yes.
And under our general laws, it's not only the person who is committing the crime who will be punished, but any person through whose conduct, either by encouraging, inciting, directly influencing, or instigating the person to commit a crime could also be held for abetment and all. So I think it's more about public education. That one, there is a law that makes the wearing of face masks, face shields, and other face coverings compulsory. Violation of the law is a crime, and the punishment is very, very severe. So all those who as part of their political activities, mobilizing people, getting them into enclosed areas or open areas where definitely are going to have close contact to ensure that those persons are wearing their face masks. It's a public health issue, and you have to be careful.
The next question is from Farouk. Okay, I think we have dealt with that. He was asking, can parties come around to share the face mask? Under what Sriboy is saying, that you read the law that says 500 meters away. Can they still do that? Well, he says they are using international standards.
They could use international standards, but that is only of an advisory nature. Under our laws, before any international instrument or standard will have the force of law, it has to go through a certain legislative process. So once that has not been done, then it could only be advisory and nothing more, nothing less. But I think, as I said, I think it's a good practice. But if somebody wants to insist on its right, a political party, nothing prevents them from distributing marks 1,000 meters away from the polling station. The only thing is that it must not be 500 meters away from a polling station. The only difference is that it must not be a party-branded face mask.
Okay, thank you very much. The very last one was from Reverend Father Enyonam. It's, yes, so Dr. Kweku, taking photos of the votes, what should the presiding officers do?
Evans.
Samson here.
Samson.
Yeah.
You all know that the mother of all our laws in the country, Article 49 says voting should be done in secrecy.
Yes, Article 49(1).
Yes. So that alone should tell us that we shouldn't show to anybody who we voted for. You can say it by mouth, which can be lie. But if you take a snapshot of it and show it, you'll be infringing on the secrecy of the ballot.
Okay.
If you look at the CI to, I think, 27.
You are looking at 33.
33, okay.
Yeah.
So 3C. 3C. Okay. It's also there.
Okay.
So what is in the Constitution is reaffirmed in the CI.
Okay.
So under no circumstance you take a snapshot of it. And I know during the special voting, about 3 people were arrested.
Yes.
I've not followed up, but I know they were put in cells. And I wish that they are seriously punished with a custodial sentence to serve as a warning to others.
Okay. Yes, Dr. Bamba, what do you say?
Well, this is a difficult one and raises serious issues of interpretation, right? So, yes, it is true that voting should be by secret ballot. As a matter of fact, nobody is entitled to know how I have voted at the point of voting. And then when you look at PNDC Law 284, it is more focused on other persons trying to ascertain how I have voted. It's not about me willingly maybe disclosing my vote. So I think this is an area where perhaps we need more specific laws on, because as the law is now, it is not very, very clear that if I decide to to show how I voted, that is really a crime. I'll be much interested in knowing how the police dealt with these cases. And what
Can we start from here? Because the same law you are referring to, there are a couple of provisions. There's one that is clearly saying, Section 24. It says prohibition of disclosure of votes.
Yeah.
A person who has voted at an election shall not be required to state for whom that person has voted in proceedings questioning the election. Well, the police said they are going to prosecute those people for disclosure of votes. So let's start with 24. Yes.
So let's start. Okay, so 24. 24 says that a person who has voted in an election shall not be required to state for whom that person has voted in proceedings questioning the election. So it is not about the person, disclosing on his own volition. It's about some other person requiring the person to disclose. So this provision doesn't really deal with a situation where, on my own volition, I disclose my...
So I said we'll deal with it gradually. Then the next provision that you find that is close, I hope you should like this education. So 31, which confirms Article 49.
So 31 says that...
Secrecy, requirements of secrecy. Yes. 31
says that an election officer, a clerk, interpreter, candidate, election agent, or polling agent on duty at a polling station shall maintain and help in maintaining the secrecy of voting and shall not, except for a purpose authorized by law, communicate to any other person an information as to A, the name of a voter who has or has not applied for a ballot or voted at a polling station, or B, the number on the register of a voter who has or has not applied for a ballot paper or voted at a polling station, or C, the official mark. Now, you see that this provision also doesn't relate to a voter disclosing how he or she had voted. It is more about election officials or persons associated with the organization of an election.
How about Section 2 of that same law? Section 3, more importantly. Section 3.
If I may read.
Yes.
A person shall not A, interfere or attempt to interfere with a voter when the voter is recording the vote. Or B, obtain or attempt to obtain in a polling station information about the candidate for whom a voter in that station is about to vote or has voted. Or C, communicate at any time to any other person and information obtained in a polling station about the candidate for whom a voter in that station has voted or is about to vote, or about the number on the ballot given to a voter in that station. Or D, directly or indirectly induce a voter to display the ballot after the voter has marked or selected it so as to make known to another person the name of the candidate for whom the voter has or has not voted.
This too doesn't apply?
This too doesn't apply. It's also more about another person. It's not about the voter. Yeah. Yes. So it appears that PNDC Law 284 doesn't really have any express provision as to me disclosing how I voted. But it is more about other person not disclosing how I have voted. So
Dr. Sribo wants me to ask you further about the 33.3c of CI 127, which says once you are delivered the ballot paper, you must go and vote in tampering it secretly. Yeah. 33 3D. 3D, it's here.
So 33 3D says that B, sorry.
Yeah, B.
The voter on receiving the ballot paper shall be secretly make on the ballot paper an imprint of the thumb of the voter in the box and column provided for that purpose directly against the name and symbol of the candidate for whom the voter wishes to vote. So it's about the time that I'm doing the thumb printing. It should be done secretly.
Right.
Right.
So when you finish, you can show.
Well. The point is, if you really want to make something a crime, the law requires that it has to be very, very specific. It has to be very, very, very clear. I agree with you about the requirement.
So in this provision, it doesn't say it's a crime.
No, it doesn't say it is a crime. It doesn't say it's a crime. And if you go to the provision that deals with.
I really want us to move on, so if you can do that quickly.
Okay, let's go to the provision of CI 127 that deals with offences, and I'll read everything. 45. The provisions in relation to election offences specified in the Representation of the People Act 1982, PND's Law 284, apply to these regulations. So there's no reference to 33. And we've gone through PND's Law 284.
Right.
There isn't any reference whatsoever to me not disclosing my vote. If I do so, it's a crime.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so...
No, I think that even though we don't have any clear rule on this, I think it will help a lot that voters do not do so. I think it makes for good order. It removes any incentive for any disturbance at a polling station.
Right.
Despite a clear criminal, prohibition of me disclosing the way I voted, for a voter not to disclose his or her ballot choices. And I think this is good because, look, if you're going to encourage a situation where we all can take pictures of how we have voted and start sharing on social media, if you're not careful, it can be a recipe for confusion.
Okay.
But I think, going forward, maybe at the next election, when the EC is revising the public election regulations, it could take that into account and have an express prohibition on that.
Okay, express prohibition. In the United States, there are a whole host of the states where they are not really bothered, but there are some of them too that prohibit it within a certain radius. Alabama in 2019 decided to specifically make a law prohibiting voters from taking a photograph or otherwise revealing the content of their voted ballots and making the offense a misdemeanor. In Arizona, they prohibit it within 47 foot, a 47-foot limit around polling station, making voting booths, ballot selfies unlawful. There was actually one case, I think it was in Pennsylvania or so, where they sued that the voter, for taking pictures of his vote, was contravening a law, and the court threw them out. They went on appeal, and the Court of Appeal also said the voter has a right to take. Yeah. So, like you said, you should use good sense and judgment.
The only way, if you want to be legally creative, the only way that you could deal with a voter like this is to say that by disclosing who you voted for, during at the presence of the polling station, you are essentially campaigning.
You are essentially...
You are campaigning.
You are campaigning.
Okay. And there we have a provision that deals with that. But apart from that, we don't have any express...
Okay, thank you. I've got... Let's take a second segment of your calls, but some of you have sent messages. You call yourself Anomaly 828. It says, I just checked my information using the USSD code, *711 *2020 hash, and my status was confirmed. However, it didn't ask whether special or normal. Does that mean it's only normal voters that can use the USSD code?
If the person was a special voter, the polling station code, they will add SPS on it.
SPS yes. On the polling station code. Thank you.
Next. S.
Okay.
Like this.
X.
No, S.
Oh, S, as in somewhere. Okay.
Okay. Then we have Papi Ghana says, what will be the possibility of me getting my name on the register after checking my details in the website? The system tells me we couldn't find your details, but with the code, the details appear.
So it's there.
You say?
If it's there, but if there's any challenge, he or she can go to the polling station. We are working today, we are working tomorrow. Can go to this office for confirmation.
Okay. Sita Mohammed says, wow, Samson, I just checked my details using the mobile phone. This EC Ghana official is, what's the word? So trying to say you have done a good job, I suppose. Sechre Boateng says, EC Ghana official have I lost my vote? My name was on the exhibition list. Just watch Dr. Srebo on Joy News, Newsfile, talk about this process, so I decided to try it. My results haven't also applied to be on the SP list. This is not clear. Is it clear to you?
I'm not good.
Okay. So please, when you type, read over again. There's a likelihood that you type faster than... okay. So let's hear Nana Ejay. You're calling from Sunyani. Nana Ejay, let's hear you.
Yes, good morning.
Morning, Nana. Go ahead.
Yes, please, as a public servant, the last elections I voted for the SDP, but currently I am voting for the ND because I thought the extent of rot, mismanagement and corruption within the previous government was worse. Not until the government came in. So where I work currently, it is even worse. And the problem we have is that we are being intimidated, victimized to the extent that you cannot even talk about them.
Okay. So Nana J called to make a pitch for the party he's voting for, and you have exactly 30 seconds to do so. Bekoin in Sunyani. Hello, Bekoin. Let's hear you.
Samson.
Yeah.
Much. So I want to know, is it an admonishment that after voting you cannot be, or you're not supposed to be at the polling station, or it's by law that after voting you'd have to go and then maybe later come and observe what's happening? Is it an admonishment or law?
Thank you for your question. William, you're calling us from Gomoa. Let's hear you.
Morning, Samson.
Yep.
I am voting for John Mahama because I do not want my children to ask me why did I support the idea of mortgaging our gold royalties to a few families. Thank you very much.
That's the only reason you are voting for John Mahama. William, thank you. Okay, so remember that if you call and you are making your final pitch, as we call it, your final pitch, 30 seconds within which you say why. We need a reason. That's the most important part of it. Okay, who is next? I've got Samuel Adler. He says, your name is transferred to that list or not. It can be that your name is transferred to new list and not transferred to the... Okay, so guys, when you type, just check again. What you have typed, sorry, it doesn't make sense. Peter from Taifa. Hello, Peter. Hello, Peter, you're on air.
Yeah, hello. Hello.
Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, my question is, so during the voting day, you are supposed to be in nose mask. So when you have the nose mask on, you want to verify, the EC official wants to verify, do you take the mask off for the verification? Because if you verify on the, how do you call it, their machine, they have to reconcile your face with the one on them. So probably I take your mask off for the verification, or you just keep the mask on.
Thank you, Peter. That's clear enough. Thank you. That's clear enough. Peter from Taifa. Thank you very much. The line is 0302211691 or 1692. That's the number to call. Dexmon Frimpong says, please, if your ID card got missing a day to election, can you still vote on the election day? All right, so I'll take Emmanuel, and Emmanuel will be the last call I take for this segment. Yes, Emmanuel from Medina, let's hear you.
Yes, I'm on the line.
Let's hear you.
Yes, I will call to ask that my other colleague from MPP should come out with their numbers to vote. Because for if anything at all, we've got 3 SHS. and I'm a beneficiary. My daughter is a beneficiary, so it takes me out from the pressures that I go through to pay school fees and trying to assist others as well. So a form of Nana is definitely coming on.
Great.
No two ways about that.
Great. All right, so Emmanuel from Medina pitching for Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo on the basis of free SHS. Remember that this show is brought to you by the kindly sponsorship of Bank of Africa, strongest a group and closest a partner, MTN everywhere you go, Ashesi University educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa, Duraplus, where Duraplus goes, water flows, Star Assurance, your solid partner, Rehoboth Properties, Heaven Mosquito Spray and Coil, pleasant on humans, tough nightmare on insects, and Napa Foods, it's tasty. So let's begin. Dr. Kwaku, if I lost my ID card a day before the elections, can I vote?
I wanted to talk about admission to the polling stations. Then I will check, which one should I start first?
This Desmond Frimpong, if you can answer a question. Can I vote if I lost my ID card?
Yes. Every polling station has the name reference list, which is arranged in alphabetical order. So the most important thing is to be sure of the name you use for the registration. There are some people who have about 3 different names. So they will mention you this and say it's not the entire. But if you are sure of the name that you use to register, alphabetically your name can be traced.
Great.
They can go through.
Right.
Then somebody was asking kind of verification and the mask.
Yes, Peter.
You use the fingerprint as the first way of verifying you. If that one face and you have to go the facial, then you have to remove the mask.
Okay.
Like you did during the registration, you have to remove them before the picture was taken, so you have to go back that.
Great. Then Bequeen, being at the polling station after voting, some prohibition, he says, is it by law or?
I don't want to have a lawyer here.
Yeah.
You can. From there. Yes.
29. Yes, I mean, the question relating to whether when you vote you can stay at the polling station or you have to leave and come back when it's time for counting. Now, you need to remember that the law gives the presiding officer, who is the person in charge of the polling station, the authority to regulate the number of persons at the polling station.
Right.
So if in the view of the presiding officer, there are too many persons at the polling station, that is interfering with voting, he can ask some people to leave the polling station and come back when it's time for counting.
Right.
I think
yes, but there are some persons who have to be there at all times.
That's correct.
And that is provided for under Regulation 29(3). Let me read. The presiding officer shall regulate the number of voters to be admitted to the polling station at each time and shall exclude other persons except A, the candidates, their spouses, and their polling or counting agents, B, election officers, C, security officers on duty, D, persons accredited by the commission, and E, persons accompanying voters who are visually impaired or physically challenged. So apart from these persons, any other person who has voted could be asked to leave the polling station until it's time for counting.
And by Regulation 30, he has the power to ensure there is order.
Absolutely.
Therefore, he can instruct the security
to remove it
from the place.
From the polling station.
But that comes with a caveat, does it not? It says that the presiding officer shall maintain order at the polling station assigned to that presiding officer. The presiding officer may authorize a security officer to immediately remove from a polling station a person who now let's check that, who A, behaves in a manner to disrupt proceedings. Behaves in a manner to disrupt proceedings at the polling station, or fails to obey the lawful orders of the presiding officer, and that person shall not be allowed to enter the polling station on the polling day without the permission of the presiding officer.
Yes, so, but in exercising this power, it's always important that the power be exercised in a manner that allows a person to exercise his franchise. So even if a person is being destructive, it could be managed in such a way that the person is allowed to vote before the person is removed from the polling station.
So the basis on which the officer can ask you to move is that you are behaving in a manner to disrupt the
proceedings at the polling station, or
you are disobeying lawful orders.
Or the presiding office, absolutely. So if you are behaving in a disruptive manner, in a manner that disrupts proceedings at the polling station, you could be removed from the polling station. Or if you refuse to obey the lawful order of the presiding officer or somebody who has been authorized by the presiding officer to give lawful orders, then you could be removed from the polling station. But as I indicated, it's always important that we give you the right to exercise your franchise before you are removed.
Because sub-regulation 5 of this regulation is important. It emphasizes that the powers conferred by this regulation shall not be exercised to prevent a voter
who is entitled to vote at the polling station from having the opportunity to vote at that station. So that right must be exercised subject to the right of the voter to vote at the polling station.
Okay.
Meaning that immediately you finish voting,
we can get you out.
One, if you are not going there to vote, and you are not part of those who have been exempted, then you have no business being there.
Okay. Right. But the counting is supposed to be done for the purposes of the people who vote.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's why we say that when it is 5 o'clock,
you all can
come back and help us to do the counting.
Okay. So that is Bequeen. Your questioning, you have an answer to your questioning. That's my own, not yours. Sorry. Before we say Jack.
That's not still.
The way I have annotated mine, if you take it away, I'll be lost in the way of my election job. Thank you very much. Now, Imelda. Okay, Imelda's dad, Nete _ Kwame. When does the duty of the security officer at the polling center end? Is he supposed to provide protection for the presiding officer to the collation center, or his duty ends after the counting of the ballots?
By regulation or by policy, he's supposed to escort the materials back to the collation center.
So his question is, when does his job end?
So the materials that the people you worked with have submitted their materials, everything to the collation center. Because there will be security at the collation center too. So when you come, you hand over them to the officers and the security at the collation center, then you can.
I suspect this is an election officer seeking information on the process. All right, so thank you very much for all your questions that you have brought in. We are taking a break. We'll return to try and finish up on this discussion, plus the issues of the pact that has been signed. And then we'll have Sheila Abeye-Bachman a lot of time to deal with the issues of security. I almost forget, I cannot forget. Rhoda, what will be your comments on the questions that have come up and the answers to them?
Yes, actually, I was calling for attention to add on a few things. So the question that Bequeen asked about whether it is mandatory for you to leave the polling station, I think it's important, and I wanted to provide additional information. So CI 127, section 33, if you look at the provision under clause 4 on voting, it says the voter shall then fold up the ballot paper and in the presence of the presiding officer and the polling agents and in the full view of the general public cast a vote by putting the folded ballot paper into the ballot box and leave the polling station. So I think it's a bit clearer there that after casting your ballot, you are supposed to leave the polling station. So let's take note of that. The other point we earlier raised about face mask, but I would like Dr. Kwaku also to touch on the issue of temperature checks. If I am a voter and I came to the polling station and my temperature was checked and it was found to be above a certain threshold, what is the instruction to poll officials? I know that they've been told that they have to refer the issue to the health professional who is there. But for the voter, I have to know what am I supposed to do, and whatever is happening to me, I have to understand it. So if we can have some information, some clarity on people who may have high temperature on the day of voting.
All right, that's a question to you.
Okay. I think we have a collaboration with the Ghana Health Service. So the understanding is that if your threshold of temperature is 38 plus, then we should call their attention. They will come and observe you. It may not necessarily be COVID, but it could be other reason. So when they come, they will observe you, and if they have to take over and administer you through the process, so that they have the expertise to handle you. then you cast your vote and they may decide to go with you and give you the necessary attention.
Great.
It will not deny you from voting.
Yeah. And Rhoda, thank you very much for the reference in the Sub-Regulation 4 of 33, which is very clear, that says after you are done, you leave the polling station. So if the presiding officer gives an instruction that you should leave, that is a lawful instruction that you must obey. It's only after 5 that you come back, at 5 that you come back to observe the counting. Now, I'd like Dr. Serbo to look at this last question. Persons with disabilities and those who have leprosy, lost their fingers, how do they vote?
Thank you very much again. That's why we are using the facial recognition. The previous years, they will go straight to face only. Meaning that in the course of registration, they couldn't capture their fingerprints. But this time, once your fingerprints were not captured, you will go through the facial recognition. You have already been taking pictures in the course of registration. So the picture will be taken instantly, and it will match with your old picture, and you are cleared. If that one also fails, then you go through the manual verification. People have to testify that you are the one you are claiming to be. The signs of the necessary documentation, they will allow you to vote. But this time, the machine will capture all those who are allowed to go to the manual verification because their data would have been captured onto the machine.
Okay. Is there some special training you give for the provision of the law that says that people with disability need assistance to be able to vote, blind people, also need assistance, and there's also the need for interpreters? How is that done?
As for the interpreters, it's difficult because we don't have records on where the I don't know the word to use for where people with hearing impairment.
Okay.
You don't know where they are located. But the law allows you to come with your assistance, who should be at least 18 years and a Ghanaian, who can help you to vote. If you come there and you don't come with any of this, then the law enjoins that the presiding officer to help you to cast your vote. You cannot come there and appoint a party agent to vote for you because it will fraud the secrecy of the ballot. Then with respect to the visually impaired, we have taken them through a lot of training on the use of the tactile jacket. So once you are taken there, you'll be helped to the booth, you give them your jacket and the ballot paper, they can vote independently. Then there's people who, by some reason, don't have any fingerprint and other things. They would then either appoint somebody, but not the party agent or the presiding officer will help them to cast their vote. But in all this, by training, we said that these people, we call them vulnerable groups, should not join the queue. And we include pregnant people, lactating mothers, old ladies and gentlemen, old ladies and men, or whatever. They don't join queues. They're given preferential treatment.
Preferential treatment.
Exactly, preferential treatment to cast their vote.
Okay, so I was saying you were leaving at this point, but a couple of questions have come in. So you take them because you are taking leave of us. This is from Itchy Fingers. Man like at Itchy Fingers. It says, please can I or will I be allowed to vote wearing a party, okay, it's been sorted out, wearing a party branded nose mask or T-shirt? You are told you cannot do that. Django Nana, is that Django Nana? WBA Django Nana says the right to vote is guaranteed in the Constitution. So also is the right to life. Don't come and infect me at the polling station. Wear a mask. You are right. Baba Chairman Tamale says every right goes with responsibility. So fighting COVID must be a collective effort. I get irritated when I hear some people say some can't afford the mask. It must not be mask at all costs. One can tie a handkerchief or any nice cloth. You are right about that. Al-Hassan Swalehu says that are we going to see the same team as we have seen at Okay, it says SWAT team.
SWAT team.
SWAT team, as we have seen at Ayawaso, West Wuogon. I think we can have Sheila join us to deal with that. Katechie Asamoah says, please, I have checked the voter register several times and I get the same feedback. It says, quote, your details cannot be found, unquote. What should I do? I think that's what you should answer to, and then you can.
And that's why I said that we have given 3 approaches to testing. If that one fails, go to the district officer. They will help you.
Okay. iKofi says it's a secret ballot, but I have the right to share my secret with anybody. They are saying don't take a picture of it. As for sharing your who you voted for, nobody can prevent you from doing that. Then I'll take a last one from Big Trees. Says, let's use 11 a.m. to make a pitch for political parties. Okay, sorry. We will take a break here. Do you have any final words?
Yes.
What
I would say is that the Electoral Commission will do its best to ensure free, fair, peaceful elections. But it's also we also need the collaboration of our stakeholders. Everybody has a role to play. Whether you are a voter, you are a media person, you are a security person, you belong to the judiciary, you have a role to play.
Right.
Let us all commit ourselves to the cause of Mother Ghana, not the various political parties.
Okay.
But Mother Ghana first.
Thank you.
And nobody should lose the stand of the hair because of an election.
Okay, what did John Mahama say about that at the Peace Park? You'll hear that shortly when we come back. Thank you very much, Dr. Sribo Kwaku.